Hello, everyone. My guest today is Dustin McCaffrey. He is a serial founder and sold his first small software as a service company last year, started Jolt as a side hustle, and then joined CopyAI as a full-time software engineer more recently. Dustin, you ready to take us to the top?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So take us back to the start. You said you had a first small SaaS last year before Jolt, I believe, right? What was the smaller SaaS?
Yeah, it was called Rocket Note. Um, it actually lasted for a while. I started it back in early 2018. So that was it was the long haul ride with that one.
And what was it, a personal sort of Evernote like competitor, or what was the company doing?
Um, kind of. So it was more focused on YouTube. I actually learned to code online, just watching a lot of YouTube videos and stuff. So I was inspired to try to make YouTube a little bit more of a learning platform. And there were some competitors out there also doing like note taking for, whether it was YouTube or Vimeo or trying to do them all at once. But I wanted to build something that felt more integrated. So it was like a really integrated, more native feeling Chrome extension on YouTube.
Interesting. Chrome extensions are hot. It's a great way to build an MVP, build a user base, get a lot of feedback. How many users did you grow to?
So total signups was around 3,000 by the time that I sold it, but the activity rate was pretty low on that.
Hmm.
So I
How
don't I
did you?
don't even have like awesome stats on it. I wasn't like doing that really well. Honestly, like my especially at the time, things have gotten a lot better for me on this side, but especially at the time, like the Chrome store worked really well for me because I'm not good at all the biz dev side of things and like that was the weakness of mine. So
Hmm.
having something that was had a built-in marketplace, that's where I mean all of my users came from organic,
Yep.
just finding me on that store.
Talk me through the sale real quick before we go into Jolt. How'd you sell the
Yeah.
business?
So I listed it on MicroAcquire,
Hmm.
which is just it was so easy. It felt almost too easy. I had people like reach out within 24 hours of listing. Andrew had gone through, and like made it all sound even a little bit better than I had originally said, and like helped smooth out some of the numbers so that it like made more business sense because I didn't know what I was really saying. Um, and then yeah, I mean, I had people offering what I was asking for
What were you asking?
within that 24 hours. So originally, it's so funny. I priced it really low. Originally, I was asking 3,000. I had no idea like that I had something that was worth more than that. I hadn't done my research really well, and then it was just bidding war up to my 10,000 that I ended up selling it for.
That's incredible. Okay, so you sell this thing for $10,000. I assume like a good chunk of that was hopefully cash up front. Maybe there's a slight earnout or something in escrow. But you take that cash. What do you do with the cash? How do you reinvest it?
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea from there was just that I'd be able to fund myself building my next thing. My expenses. So I'm married, have two kids, so like I do have expenses.
Hmm.
Um, and I didn't. It's funny. The story gets a little more complicated because I had been a co-founder in a company while all this was going on, and before I sold Rocket Note, I had co-founded a restaurant loyalty app,
Okay.
and we had like raised money and done the whole thing, and so I wasn't really making money for a long time, and so selling Rocket Note was like, okay, now when the pandemic hit, the restaurant industry was awful, and so I had to split with my co-founder, everything, which was fine. We're on good terms and everything. Um, but I ended up I wanted more runway, just like personal runway to be able to build my next thing. And so part of selling that felt smart to me is that I made connections with a lot of people, not just the person who ended up buying the
Hmm.
business, but with a lot of the other people who were wanting to. And everybody was interested in what I was going to do next. And I was already showing them. I already had like the landing page for Jolt built. And so I was able to show all of these potential investors like, hey, here's what I'm working on next. And so it set me up for the next step.
And rest is history. So do break us into Jolt.
Yeah, so Jolt, it was supposed to be my full-time thing. At the time, I thought this would be like the next 2 or 3 years full-time for me. Um, Jolt is a way to make any like static website. Whether that's so like one of the crazes right now is like Notion plus Super or Notion plus Potion.
Mhm.
Just being able to make Notion into its own static website on your own domain and stuff. So Jolt, you can turn any website really into a visual builder where you can add blocks and stuff to it. So you can just really easily like almost drag and drop style add, your email subscribe form or your comments section and things like that. So it just helps transform your site into something that you can just add little blocks to easily.
And while you grab more water because you're battling through a cough while you're doing this, which I appreciate, I'm going to fill this space here with another question, right? So sure. Put this on a timeline for us. So when did you sell Rocket Note, and when did you have your first users on Jolt?
So I sold Rocket Note in I think it was like October of last year.
Okay.
And then it took me until about January to build out Jolt to the point where I had my early users.
Perfect. And what's the URL if you want to follow along for Jolt?
It's just jolt.so.
Jolt.so.
Yeah,
and
that's our trend. Let's go.
Jolt.so. It is. Which country is that? South. What is that?
I think it's Somalia.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, okay. I mean, Notion kind of sparked that, and then now a lot of people are following along.
Now, did you do all the design for this and everything?
I did. Yeah.
This is great. You're one of these rare cases. You can code. You're just resourceful, and the site looks great. I mean, you have it all in one shot, huh?
Thank you so much. I like design was so really. I would call myself a front end developer, but having started so many projects, it's like you have to end up learning back end, and then design. You just have to learn design. I actually now work with a designer just on all my side projects, but at the time I didn't. So this was all me.
Yeah.
But it's actually really nice as a developer, if you can afford it, it's so nice to be able to have somebody that's just always building your backlog of designs that I can then code. So that's my new thing I'm working on.
Yeah. So this is sort of almost like, I guess back in the day, they were sort of unsexy. You'd see these tools that were like WordPress plugins that would allow you to add more like drag and drop functionality, right? Like the Discus comment stream, for example.
Yeah.
You're sort of doing that before this new wave of hey, one-page Notion landing pages, right?
Yeah. But even Discuss, people use that. I don't love WordPress. It's kind of an old behemoth, but Ghost for blogs, right? If you're familiar with Ghost, it's actually really hard to add comments to Ghost. You have to download your theme, and then you have to make actual code changes to it, zip it, and then upload. I think they removed the zip thing in Ghost v4. Mm-hmm. But Jolt, all you have to do, there's a section to add a little snippet into the head of your site, and then you can it becomes a visual builder for you.
Yep.
So on any site like that, it hasn't been accessible in the past. And so being able to bundle in, I'm not making you add a new snippet and download your code and then add your Discuss tag wherever you need and make sure that plays nice. It's all just in a visual builder, which makes it handy.
And is Jolt still pre-revenue, or do you have users signed up and folks paying?
It's still pre-revenue. Excuse me.
No, you're good. Yeah, pre-revenue. So, and then let's loop in Paul and Copy and that whole story, right? So how did you get connected to Copy.ai?
So I connected with Chris, actually. I had been following along on Twitter, and those guys are really fun building in public, and they are having a lot of success. And so, I had thought for a little while that a missing piece for me was that I hadn't really had a corporate job that was a real rocket ship that I was part of. So I had in the back of my mind, sorry.
Take your time, dude. No, you're pushing through it. No worries. This is a key moment, right? There's a lot of front end developers that are very resourceful, that have sold side projects, and they're always thinking, man, what would it be like to sort of be on one of these rocket ships behind the scenes? And their curiosity, they just can't help it. They want to get on one of them at least once just to learn.
Yeah, well, for me, the thing that was going to make that work is if the founders were willing to have me be part of and teach me things that were not just development, right? Development at CopyAI, that's not what's going to push me. The stack is pretty much what I'm used to. The thing that's pushing me is one of the things I'm learning as part of a team. That's something I really wanted because I want to own another company and be building a team. I don't have a lot of insights into how to do that well. And then the other piece of that is that we're having lunch and learns on how to be a good angel investor and that sort of thing. These are things that Chris and Paul know a lot about. Mm-hmm. And so to learn from them, anyway, we kind of jumped the gun a little bit. The way I connected is that I was just building in public and they're building in public. And so Chris, I just replied to a tweet of his and said, hey, I want to learn more, or I want to be part of it. Just kind of joking. And then he DM'd me. He's like, hey, we always need more software engineers. It's hard to find good talent. And he ended up using Jolt, and like poked around on Jolt, really liked it, liked the designs, liked the dev side of it. Excuse me. What we're doing.
No, take your time. Take your time, man. This is a tight, the build in public community is a very tight one. I mean, one of the ways that I got connected with you is I literally went and used Twitter search functionality, typed BIP, and then build in public as well. And you just go look at all the tweets from people building, and it's always like, just crossed 50 grand in MRR, or reaching my SaaS target, reaching these targets. And but it's a very small community. I mean, there's probably only maybe like 30 or 40 like SaaS founders really truly building in public.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's like a lot of silent like lurkers who are also building, but like people have all kinds of fears about building in public.
Yeah.
Some of them are valid and a lot of them are not.
I totally understand that. So you got, that's how you got interfaced with Chris and Paul. You joined because you want to learn. You mentioned sort of team. What's the team size, by the way, right now?
I need you to tell, I feel like I need you to tell this story more so I can just like not talk. Sorry, say that again.
What's the size of the team today at Copy?
Still pretty small. I think we're like 2 co-founders and maybe like eight team members, something like that.
That's great. That's great.
I got hired number 3, and then we've been hiring pretty quick after that. I don't think we're going to hire a ton more right now for early team, but yeah, it's really awesome. The team is really tight knit. You're basically like encouraged to have a side project, which is exactly what I would be looking for. Yep. It's kind of the dream, and it's weird to get a salary again. Like making money feels weird.
Were you able to get equity?
Yep.
That's always a tricky conversation. So to the extent you can talk about it, talk about how that sort of went down.
Honestly, the founders are just awesome. So I didn't negotiate really at all. I'm actually a big negotiator. So when I didn't negotiate, Paul was like, that's not how it works. But they would never know that. Like usually I would negotiate, but I wanted to be part of it bad enough and had such low expectations. They offered enough equity and a good enough like market rate salary that I didn't feel like I was needing to negotiate at all.
Yeah.
I think that was like, that's something that feels really good with CopyAI, is that they just understand like what it takes to make people want to work for you. And there just isn't a downside for me. I expected there to be more of a downside. I expected a lower salary. I expected less equity. But that didn't even have to be a conversation.
Can we, I don't want to like reveal your financial situation, but there are people looking to find people like you, and they're wondering like, how the heck do I incentivize a guy like Dustin? So can we put brackets? I mean, can we say like 1 to 5% equity and, 100K to 300K in terms of salary? Are those fair brackets?
Sure. Yeah. I would fit somewhere in there. I mean, really with equity, I feel like early equity in a startup that's like obviously growing, when I had and I'll be like really upfront, I guess with my numbers that I had before.
I would love that. Yeah.
Because I gave away equity like with my angel-backed startup. And so I was giving away between like 0.25 to 0.5%. And that was with we had like lower valuation than CopyAI has. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't have been sad with anything like even a little lower than 0.25%. I would have been fine with. And that's usually with like, it's over years, and it's got a cliff and things like that. They offered more than I expected. I can say that much.
Yeah.
And so really nice. I don't know if that would continue, if other people are looking to work at CopyAI.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like,
that's great. What is, I don't know if they've put this out there, but what is the CopyAI evaluation currently?
I'm not sure if that's out there.
Okay. Well, you got to push them to put it out there. They got to do a Twitter thread on it.
I know like right now they do investor emails, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure what's out there. But yeah. I'll say like they want to be as transparent as possible. It always gets a little tricky when you're raising money, and you have a lot of people that have stakes. And so really the goal, and part of what Chris and Paul have done from the beginning is like, let's raise a little bit from a lot of people. We're getting so off topic, but I think that's really smart, right? Because everybody has a little bit of skin in the game, but nobody has enough that it's like you feel like you have to listen to them.
Yeah. No, that is a great model. You're seeing a lot of these like power super angel rounds where it's like 100 investors, $3 million round, and it works, right? You just got to find someone, set the terms, and then go from there. So this is great. One other question I'll ask here, because I'm curious how you would tackle this from the developer perspective at Copy. Many people would look at a tool like Copy and go, oh, they're really good at bringing top of funnel in via Twitter. They're really good in public, but churn's got to be crazy. There's got to be people signing up. They test it. They're like, wow, this is cool. But then there's no real ongoing use case. What are you doing from a development perspective to try and make the onboarding very addictive to present like long-term use cases so people don't churn?
Yeah. So what's funny with Copy is that it's so early. Like, to me, you look at the product, it's like, to me, it's pretty obvious that the UI, the UX is crazy early. I've wanted Chris to talk more about this, but like the back end, like single, messy, long file. The front end is a hacked together Webflow site that's made into a web app. Literally, like it's rock bottom as far as product can get. So it's only up from here. So what we're working on right now, no offense to Chris, he built something that's like 1 million plus ARR on
Yeah.
that, but like right now, basically everything is up from here. We're trying to use the existing product to have like better like customer insights, so that the next version of that is just based on data more than anything else. And so we know, like, which tools of ours convert best. We know when people are like copying something wholesale, or if they're tweaking something and then taking it and copying it, as far as like CopyAI results. The goal with the next version is to be able to pinpoint our users a little bit better. So there will be like something that's pretty familiar with a lot of SaaS products, where you onboard yourself a little bit and like identify yourself as, hey, I use this for school, or I use this for my job, and then what's your job, those sort of things. But we don't have any of that in place right now.
Yep. Very cool. Dustin, are we going to see Jolt listed on MicroAcquire here soon, because you're going to just fall so in love with CopyAI, you're not going to have time for it?
I'll always have something I'm working on. So whether that's like Jolt for the next few years while I'm at Copy, or if it's a handful of other things. I actually have like several other things that I'm always working on. So, but Jolt's going to grow. Right now, it's only got like a couple of real blocks, but I want it to have tens of blocks, to start. And then I think, yeah, will I sell it one day? Yeah, absolutely.
Guys, we're going to save Dustin's voice and skip the famous 5. But again, an incredible story here, right? Side project, Chrome extension, lists on MicroAcquire, sells for $10,000, plows that money into a new tool called Jolt. While he's building Jolt in public, finds the CopyAI team, joins the CopyAI team, gets some equity, gets a good salary. It's sort of weird to get a payment or a salary for a guy that like Dustin, who's hustling and building in public. But again, he's learning a ton at Copy, keeping the side projects. We'll see what happens next. Dustin, thanks for taking us to the top.
Thanks so much, Nathan. It's been fun.
One more thing before you go. We have a brand new show every Thursday at 1 p.m. Central. It's called Shark Tank for SaaS. We call it Deal or Bust. One founder comes on, 3 hungry buyers. They try and do a deal live, and the founder shares back-end dashboards, their expenses, their revenue, ARPU, CAC, LTV, you name it, they share it. And the buyers try and make a deal live. It is fun to watch every Thursday, 1 p.m. Central. Additionally, remember, these recorded founder interviews go live. We release them here on YouTube every day at 2 p.m. Central. To make sure you don't miss any of that, make sure you click the subscribe button below here on YouTube, the big red button, and then click the little bell notification to make sure you get notifications when we do go live. I wouldn't want you to miss breaking news in the SaaS world, whether it's an acquisition, a big fundraise, a big sale, a big profitability statement, or something else. I don't want you to miss it. Additionally, if you want to take this conversation deeper and further, we have by far the largest private Slack community for B2B SaaS founders. You want to get in there. We've probably talked about your tool if you're running a company, or your firm if you're investing. You can go in there and quickly search and see what people are saying. Sign up for that at nathanlatka.com/Slack. In the meantime, I'm hanging out with you here on YouTube. I'll be in the comments for the next 30 minutes. Feel free to let me know what you thought about this episode. And if you enjoyed it, click the thumbs up. We get a lot of haters that are mad at how aggressive I am on these shows, but I do it so that we can all learn. We have to counter those people. We got to push them away. Click the thumbs up below to counter them, and know that I appreciate your guys' support. All right, I'll be in the comments. See ya.